Hi there, I'm Alison Kirak, owner of Stitch Real Estate Transaction Coordination Company, and welcome back to my channel. If you've been enjoying any of our video content, please be sure to hit the like and subscribe button so you don't miss anything exciting we have come up. As always, if this is your first time watching, I hope you enjoyed this video. Head to our channel, we've got tons of other great resources for you. All right, so now on to the main topic for today's video. So you probably have seen lots of resources online in the last few years of, tips from working from home, tips for working remotely. I have been working remotely completely out of my home office now for almost exactly 4 years. And so I want to share my top tips today, but I want you to know I'm being really specific to being a transaction coordinator, specifically an independent transaction coordinator. So regardless of what your work from home role is, I do think these tips are helpful, but I'm really speaking specifically to my fellow transaction coordinators, or if you're aspiring to be a transaction coordinator and looking for some more information on working from home. All right, so I have 6 tips today that I'm going to share with you. Let's dive right in. Okay, so the first tip is to separate your workspace from your home space if at all possible. Now, trust me, when I very first started this, like I mentioned almost 4 years ago, I was living with my husband in a 700 or less than 700 square foot apartment. At this time was height of the pandemic, so we both were working from home. Mine was supposed to be a full-time home role that I was starting, and then his was just transitioning because of what was going on. And so both of us and our first little corgi Luca in this very small apartment having to figure out how to work from home. So I completely understand if you're like, I don't have a house with a separate office or something like that. I completely get it. I've been there. So when I was in that apartment, I would work on the kitchen island. The bar stools, I still have them. They're so uncomfortable. I honestly don't know how I did it. We did have one built-in desk in the apartment, and my husband primarily used, or he'd sit and work on the couch. But for me, it was like, okay, let me have a space where after work, I'm not utilizing this space in the same way, if that makes sense. So sitting at the kitchen island in that uncomfortable bar stool with my laptop, my computer in front of me, and then as soon as I was done with my work for the day, I would shut my laptop, put it away, and then maybe just move the 3 feet over to the couch. But it was still somewhat symbolic, right? I think if I worked out of my bed or worked out of on the couch or anything like that, I think it would have been harder to maybe make the transition of shutting off my brain. And so just moving a couple feet over even was at least enough for my brain to be like, okay, work time's over, now time to relax or have fun or do whatever it is. So if you're working with limited space, I completely understand. Think if there's anything you can do to physically make the space just a little different so you have a little bit more of that disconnect. This is really helpful to not only enjoy your after work time and feel separated from it, but also to help you be more focused during your working time because you're in your working environment, whatever that may look like, or whatever space, restrictions you're working with, whatever that may look like. After that apartment, we moved into a townhome. And for me, this was really exciting because I had an office on the first level. So it was 3 stories. First level was a little office that my husband and I shared. Second level was living, kitchen, dining, and the third level was the bedroom. So I share this because I just kind of want to elaborate on why having a separate space is important and the difference it can make if at all possible. And so going from the kitchen island to just scooting over to the couch, all right next to each other, to physically having the levels separate between work time, relaxation time, and sleep, I really noticed a huge difference in the separation I was feeling of leaving work behind, being able to not only shut the door, but leave it on the first level and go up to the second level. That was when I could use time to relax, to enjoy, company or whatever it may be, cook, clean, whatever I need to do. And then moving up again to the third level to truly relax and go to sleep and rest and rejuvenate. So like I said, I wanted to share that because having any type of space is ideal, but having the distinct levels, I noticed a big difference in my mindset and my focus level on whether it was work or personal life, and just the difference I felt in having some separation. It was huge for me. So the more separation you can make as possible is what I'd recommend. But like I said, no matter what environment you're in, we can find some way to make a separate space, or at least a separate mental space, kind of. Lastly, when we moved into this home, now we have a separate office. So it is nice at the end of the day to be able to shut the door and not come back in here for the rest of the day. But it's funny, all being, that being on the same level as everything else, I do kind of miss the different levels in terms of just truly leaving something behind for the day. So if you can have that kind of situation, that was my favorite, but having a separate office is obviously the ideal goal. If you can convert a room in your house or even just a section of a room of a house, I think anything like that is really going to help you be in focused work mode and also be in focused relaxation, chill, family time mode, whatever it may be. So first tip, if at all possible, is to make sure you have a space you can create for yourself that can be your designated work area. All right, tip number 2 is to stick to a set schedule or working hours. So as I mentioned, I'm speaking a lot to my independent transaction coordinators specifically in this video, if that's you or the career path you're exploring. And the reason this is so specific is a lot of people, have fully remote jobs, or especially did during the pandemic, things like that. And so they maybe still be working full-time for their employer. So they have to be on for those hours, right? 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 or whatever it is. Someone's paying attention to them being on the computer. And if they're not, they might get fired. But for us, outside of our commitment to our clients, if we're working for ourselves, it's not quite so simple. So for example, we tell our clients we are available between 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Those are our business hours. And so for me, I really try to stick to a set schedule of being in front of my computer, being in my office, being in work mode like 90% of that time for most of the time, right? Sometimes I may have something personal come up. Sometimes I may just really have a light workload for the day, and so I might not need to, but I always know I have to be somewhat close to my computer, my phone, my laptop, whatever I'm doing during those hours, because even if I've done my portion for the day, a client may need something. So having that set schedule of basically being like, okay, even though I'm an entrepreneur, even if I don't have that much to do in terms of my transactions today, I am going to still be in that working mindset from 9 a.m. to 5. Sticking to that set schedule is really huge for me. And there's a lot of benefits to it, right? So as I mentioned, if you don't have an employer telling you, you have to be on during these hours and you don't have that much to do or something, it can be harder to be motivated or stay disciplined, which we're gonna get a little bit into more in one of the last tips. But having a set schedule will really help you not only make sure you're getting your work done, but also make sure you set a time towards growing your business if that's one of your goals. If you're working independently until you get to the point of being maxed out on clients, you're probably wanting to spend time working to grow your client base, working to grow the business. And even when you do max out on clients, you don't want to necessarily just stop any marketing, because clients could come and go for a variety of reasons at any time. So we also will have administrative tasks we may need to be working on as an independent TC, as a business owner. So we want to make sure we block off time for that too. If we just did our transaction work and then we're always done for the day, we probably wouldn't be as disciplined on growing the business and organizing the business and streamlining things, making them better. So for me personally, having my set schedule, even once I finish my transaction task or if I take a little break from them, I'm primarily still focusing on my business. And this is huge for me. So especially if you're newer, starting out, you don't have that many files going. Maybe you say, well, I'm going to be available from 9 to 5, but since I don't have much going on, I'm going to be really focused on work from 9 to 12, and then I'll just keep my phone on me if clients need me or if something comes up like a new client consult or something until my working hours. That's totally fine too. But having a set schedule of this is when I'm working, this is when I'm totally focused on work, and then after that, I'm focused on my personal life, that will make a big difference. I've even been guilty occasionally as an entrepreneur of taking a break for something personal during the day and then doing work at like 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And it's okay every once in a while, but it's not something you want to make a habit of for work-life balance. And I feel very fortunate that I actually have really great work-life balance by sticking to my 9 to 5. And then as soon as that's over, 99.9% of the time, I'm done. I'm not looking at work again until the next business day. So think of a set schedule and stick to it. Have your set working hours. That way you have a big differentiator of your time between working and non-working. So now we have separated our space from working and non-working and our time from working and non-working. All right, and tip number 3 is kind of going to piggyback off the set schedule, working hours, and it's going to be stick to a routine. So I really emphasize on having a morning routine, especially. It blows my mind that people can roll out of bed at like 8:50, still in their pajamas, and start their workday at 9. Maybe it's just one, I am a little bit more of a morning person, but also being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, I think of every day as an opportunity to grow my business, to make my business better, to make more money. And if I roll out of bed 5-10 minutes before I need to start working, I'm not setting myself up for success. I have a whole video on my morning routine. I'll see if I can put the link in the comments if you want to watch that vlog that I made. I go into everything in a lot of detail, but for me, the morning routine is important, like I said, for those reasons of setting my mindset up correctly. But another thing I really like about my morning routine is it gives me kind of like a feeling of personal time before the workday starts. So when you're working and living and cleaning and cooking and entertaining and relaxing and sleeping all in the same space, it's really important to find ways to, establish boundaries and differentiate between those different times. So as I've mentioned, we have our working hours, we have our separate working space, but having a routine, especially a morning routine or maybe an evening routine right after work, kind of helps you transition between the different parts of your day. I also like my morning routine, as I mentioned, because I get up early. I do a workout ideally. I'm having breakfast. I ideally like to sit down and eat my breakfast before I bring it to my computer. Doesn't always happen that way. But if I can sit down for a few minutes, have coffee, have my breakfast, I've made my bed, maybe I've even thrown in a load of laundry or something, then when I start the day, it's like, okay, I've already had some personal time for myself today, but now I'm hitting into work mode. Alternatively, you could have a kind of coming out of work routine where it's like, okay, I shut my computer off for the day, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z, and then I'll be in relaxation mode or whatever it is. Also, in addition to this is having routine to your work day. So this is where time blocking could come in really largely. And I am a huge advocate for time blocking of being like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate an hour to this. Or every day I do this from this time to this time. Or at least I do this first thing, then this second, then this third. This kind of routine you help create will help you stay focused and disciplined and also make sure you're getting the right things done. It can be distracting, which we'll go into a little later in one of the next tips, but we want to remain focused even in our home, even if it's just us or if we have family members there, whatever it is. And if we can allocate specific times to do things, we can be way more efficient, stay focused, and get more things done. The other beauty of time blocking is that it helps you, like I said, stick to that routine, stick to your goals and what you want to work on. If you're working from home, maybe you don't have that much going on or you're just having a slow day, you could be like, oh, I'll work on this, and you do it for 15 minutes and then give up and then go do something else and be done with it. If you say, I'm going to commit an hour to working on this, and then if whatever's not done at the hour, whatever that may be, pick it up later, finish it, whatever, but then I guarantee you'll get a lot more done and you'll feel a lot more accomplished. So stick to a routine, whatever that looks like for you, and see if you can make time blocking part of your routine during your working hours. I think you'll notice a big difference in your work from home productivity, specifically as a transaction coordinator. To get a little more specific, I time block between working on my transaction task, servicing for our clients and our deals, and then time blocking for things like this. So I can set aside 30 minutes or an hour to create a video or some videos for you to watch. And then after this, I'll go back to a separate time block maybe to work on my transactions or answer emails or work on something else for the business. So I am able to keep myself disciplined and get more done by sticking to my routine and time blocking. Then I'm more efficient, so I'm done right at 5 and I can enjoy that work-life balance I mentioned earlier. All right, and tip number 4, a tip I've kind of been hinting on over the beginning part of this video, is eliminating distractions. So I haven't worked in an office environment in a really long time. I did for a little bit as an assistant, but we kind of had a private office with just the agent and myself. And so they were always out in the field. So I was by myself a lot still, even though I was physically going to an office. And before that, I was a real estate agent myself. So I have very minimal of that typical corporate large office experience. But I notice even sometimes when my husband's working from home and he'll try to talk to me while I'm focused on something, it can be very distracting. And I know I do the same thing to him too. So I can only imagine working in a big office environment. I'm sure there are distractions, but at home, there are a lot of other distractions too. There's distractions, maybe you have your kids there, maybe you have other family members there, maybe you have pets, or maybe you just get distracted knowing the couch and the TV is only a couple feet away, or, oh gosh, I really need to clean that. I really need to fold that laundry. I really need to run this errand. I keep seeing that thing, and having that flexibility. It's great. Sometimes you do really have to run out and do something, or I'm a big advocate of throwing a load of laundry in because it doesn't take that much time, and then I can time block an hour to work while the laundry's running, flip it over, take a break, do the same thing. So I do think, you don't need to be 100% having nothing to do with what's going on in your home. If you need to take a break to eat lunch and enjoy conversation with a family member or run them to an appointment or something, those are the benefits and the flexibility that we're looking for. However, we need to eliminate these from becoming too much of a distraction. So household chores and things like that, try to time block that outside of your working hours, or say, you know what, this house is a mess, I can't focus, I'm gonna time block 30 minutes to pick it up and then come back to it. Like I said, those things are a beauty of working from home. We just need to make sure we don't let ourselves become overrun with the distractions of it. Other distractions can be things such as our phone and social media. Working from home, working independently, we probably don't have someone peering over our shoulder if we go down a rabbit hole on TikTok for 45 minutes when we're supposed to be working. So we really need to eliminate those distractions for myself. Personally, some practices I put in place is I do set social time limits. I think that's kind of a cool feature that they have on the iPhone. And so if I did start going down a rabbit hole, it's gonna stop me no matter what at 30 minutes. This has been huge just for my mental health in general, even not in working hours, but I think it helps eliminate distractions too. I also turned off all of my social media notifications. So if someone messages me, especially to my personal page, during the middle of the workday, like a friend sending me something funny on Instagram, like I'm not gonna get an alert. I'm gonna have to wait till after work, or when I take a designated break, I can click on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it is, and then I'll see the notification. This was something I implemented when I first started getting really busy. So regardless of where you're at in your career journey, I suggest implementing it now, because my friends would have this big Snapchat group or something and just talk and talk and talk. And every time I saw the notification go off, I would get really distracted and check it. I'm sure there's been studies on what that instinct we have the second we see something on our phone to check it is. I'm sure that's a bigger problem. But turning off those social notifications was big for me, because I still use one phone, so I can't, just totally put my personal phone away. So I have to be able to have my phone because I use it for my business, but not to distract with personal stuff during my business hours. So other things I found is there are work modes on iPhone, is the do not disturb, where I can put all my clients on there for their messages to come through and just make sure I don't get those social notifications during those set hours. So that could be a helpful tip too. Also, maybe you have a TV in the room you're working in. If you notice that's something that slows you down, maybe try turning off the TV, maybe try using some music for background noise. I find that helps me work way faster. I also love listening to podcasts while I'm working, but sometimes I can find those to be distracting too. So if I need a little background noise, there's also some great apps I think you can do coffee shop background noise and stuff like that if you just want something, but avoiding things that are distracting for you. Maybe that's music, maybe that's playing YouTube videos in the background, maybe that's the TV. So figure out what you are, what is drawing your attention away from your work, and become focused and eliminate those distractions. Okay, and the next tip that I want to share is kind of playing off this and some of the other things we talked about, which is that you need to be your own motivator. If you don't have an employer peering over your shoulder, checking your computer logged on time, it can be difficult to stay focused and disciplined. Different personality types have different strengths in this, but as I mentioned, we want to eliminate the distractions, and then we also want to make ourselves stay as focused as possible. So a couple ways I do this are things I've already mentioned. Like I said, I'm sticking to those set working hours. During 9 to 5, unless something really unique has come up, I am remaining focused on what I need to do. If I get bored, I need to take a little break. If I finish my transaction task, okay, let's work on what are our goals for the day of working on growing the business. And something I do for this is, in addition to time blocking the different tasks, I set little goals for every day. So me working and servicing my files and my deals, that's always going to be priority number one. After that, what are my little goals? So some example of something I did yesterday was I want to make 4 Instagram posts that I can schedule out to post. That's a month worth of posts for me. I do 1 post like that a week. So then I took a little time block and I got that done. Then when I was done with my transaction task and I was done with my mini grow the business goal, then if I was done a little early, I was okay with that. So maybe try setting mini goals for yourself. Like, okay, I'm gonna try to get all my transaction work done before lunch, and then after lunch, I'm gonna work on making a video. I'm gonna work on finishing that new email template I started. I'm gonna work on messaging 5 realtor potential clients. I'm gonna work on an hour of researching how to run a Facebook ad or an hour of researching a new software, whatever it may be. That way you can set little goals for yourself to help motivate yourself. And then if all that's done, all the clients are handled, then maybe I'll tell myself, you know what, I'll be done an hour early. Or I can take a break to do something personal and then I'll just come back again before the end of the day, just keep my phone on me, whatever it is. Maybe it's, if I get all of this stuff done by Friday, then I'll treat myself to a nice going out to a sit down lunch on Friday, or going to a coffee with a friend, or going to work from my favorite coffee shop for the morning and treating myself to a latte or whatever it is. So creating ways to motivate ourselves throughout the week, throughout the days, but also making sure we're getting stuff done. I find that setting little mini goals and little mini rewards for yourself can be really, really helpful. Okay, and then the last tip I want to share, tip number 6, is that you want to leave work where you leave work. So it can be difficult when we're working within one space, right? Even if we have a separate space, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I was moving about 3 feet from workspace to non-workspace. Now even I'm just moving from one room to another. It can be difficult if you get a text, oh, it's after hours, but I just saw this email come through, it's right there. Or maybe I'm already on my laptop browsing for a vacation on the couch, but now I saw an email come through, should I just work on that? I have a whole nother video about setting boundaries. I'll see if I can link that one down here below too, in addition to the morning routine blog, but definitely check that out. It is super helpful, but a couple hot tips from this are going to be leave it where you leave it, right? So whatever your separate working space is, leave your work there, mentally, physically if possible. If you have a laptop or a desktop and you can just turn it off, leave it there, not use it in your personal life, having some separation between your personal and your work electronics. I think that's big too. Or if you don't, utilizing features such as do not disturb, having a personal setting maybe where only personal calls get through, things like that. So having a separation of space and ideally leaving work where you leave it to in terms of your electronics, and not getting into a bad habit of checking emails late at night. Turning off those notifications would be a good habit to put in place so that you don't see something and feel drawn to do it, because we want to set firm boundaries so we can enjoy the great work-life balance that really is possible as a TC, but it's not possible if we don't create separation for ourselves. So that is my last tip. Leave your work where you leave it, electronically, mentally, physically, everything. I hope you enjoyed these 6 tips on working from home as a real estate transaction coordinator. If any of these resonated with you and you want me to dive deeper, drop me a comment below. Also, as always, any comments and questions are welcome. I will get back to you, and if you have a video request, I'll make a video about it too. Thank you again for watching. As always, please be sure to hit that like and subscribe button, and I wish you all success working from home as transaction coordinators.